So I'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for joining another one of these brief team sessions that we do. This week I just want to very briefly show some resources we have that you can get figures and illustrations from and insert them directly into your PowerPoints for lectures, and it automatically makes attribution. Putting these things in your lectures and your PowerPoints is pretty low risk when it comes to copyright stuff, because it basically falls under fair educational use. So it's very unlikely that you would cause a problem, but it's a good habit to make attribution to where you actually found something. If for nothing else, then the student that's looking at your lecture knows where to find the thing that you're sharing in your PowerPoint. And I'm going to show three main resources, or four that we have, that you can use, and then one that's not one of our resources, but in looking for some images for another faculty member that was putting something together, I found pretty useful that a bunch of figures that were under Creative Commons license, which are free to use if you just make attribution for them. So the first one I want to show is Access Medicine. And again, I like to show where you can find these things. So if you go to the LUCOM library page and scroll down under databases, you'll find Access Medicine right there. And so clicking on that link will take us to this. You've probably seen this before. And this is made by McGraw-Hill, so a lot of our required textbooks are in this resource. And one of the ones that I know gets used some is Harrison's Internal Medicine. So if I open up that resource and let's say Principles of Clinical Pharmacology, I'm going to look at. You can see what's cool about this resource is it's got the whole chapter here, but you can actually just look at the figures if that's what you're interested in. And any of the figures that you find in that chapter, you don't have to sign in. You can save this. If you sign in with your MyAccess profile, you can save these to your profile. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. There's literally a link underneath the figure that says download slide for PowerPoint. And so when I download that slide, it automatically creates a PowerPoint slide that I can add to my presentation, and it's got attribution. This is a lot of it. This is a lot of information. It takes up a whole slide, so you might not want to put everything here, but as long as you've got the figure and the source here with the copyright, all rights reserved, that would probably be enough. But it creates the PowerPoint slide with the attribution for you, so you don't have to do it by yourself. Another resource that we use a lot is Clinical Key, which can be found here underneath databases on the JFL page, or excuse me, on the LUCOM library page. And in Clinical Key, it's a little bit different. You're actually going to have to sign in with a profile that you create for Clinical Key. I've already done it, so you see it's got my name up here, Rob Morissette. When you create yours, it'll show your name once you're signed into it. But it's important to remember, because to be able to get the figures to export to a PowerPoint slide, you have to create a profile to sign into this resource. So if I were to go to, let's say, books, let's see, clinical oncology, therapeutic antibodies. Let's see if I can find one. There's just a couple more steps that you have to do in Clinical Key to see if we can find one. Here we go. So here's this figure. It's a diagram in therapeutic antibodies and immunologic conjugates, I guess is how you say that. So when I open that image, it gives me a full screen display. And there's still a couple things we have to do if we want to use this in our PowerPoint. And the way you do it is underneath here, you'll see a star where you can save it if you want to come back and look at it later. You can email this or print it, but there's this little, it kind of looks like a monitor with a triangle. It says add to presentation. So I can select a presentation. I can create a new presentation. I'm going to go ahead and select October PowerPoint and add that. And so when I go back to my profile in Clinical Key and I click on my name and I find presentations here, you'll see all the ones I've created here before. Here's my October PowerPoint. Here's these figures that I've saved to this presentation, and there's a little export button here. So if I export those images, it creates the PowerPoint slide with the attribution, with the image. Again, this is kind of big. You don't have to have all this stuff. You can take the clinical key out, take the Elsevier stamp, maybe just keep some of this showing where it came from. But it does it for you, so you don't have to do it from scratch. Which again, not a huge risk because it's fair educational use and using this in lectures for your PowerPoints, but it's just a good practice, and plus it lets students know where you're finding these things. Another resource we use a lot is LWW, made by Wolters Kluwer. We have the osteopathic core collection here. LWW can be found here underneath databases on the LUCOM library page. And a lot of our anatomy resources are here, embryology, histology. This is where our osteopathic textbooks are found in the osteopathic core collection. So let's say if I were to open the FOM book. And let's see, fascial system of the body. Let's see if I can find a figure here. Okay, so here's a figure, and again, this is one's a little bit easier, kind of like Access Medicine. You can create a profile for this and do different things with it, but you don't have to sign in or anything. There'll just be a link down here that says download slide or your PowerPoint file extension. It automatically downloads it, puts it in my slide, makes attribution. Again, you don't have to have all of this, these graphics, the LWW Health Library, all this stuff, but it tells you what it is. It tells you the date that you downloaded it. It tells you where it came from. The last resource that we have that you might use for these images or figures is TEMA Med1, which is mostly anatomy resources. Our Gilroy Anatomy of Atlas comes from TEMA, but there's a lot more books in there than just the Gilroy Atlas. And if you click on TEMA from the LUCOM library page, you'll find over here our ebooks. You click on this, it shows you everything we have. And so here's, let's say, Color Atlas of Human Anatomy. Let's try basic elements of the nervous system. So I have an image here of nerve cells. I click on this image. It pulls it up, and I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can rotate this image using the tools over here. But then again, you don't have to sign in. There's just a link here for PowerPoint. I can just click on that. It automatically downloads the PowerPoint slide, makes the attribution, shows that it comes from TEMA, where it was from, the DOI of it, and all that. It does it for you. So those are the main 4 resources we have that I wanted to show you that allow us to download or export figures and tables and things directly into a PowerPoint slide, and it makes attribution automatically. I've gotten some questions from faculty about graphics or figures or images that we can use without worrying about violating copyright laws and things like that. So like open source images. One of the things I found that is useful when I was looking for something for another faculty member, project they were working on, is this thing called Openverse. And all of the images and figures, a lot of this is artwork, but there's also other things in here too that are usually licensed under like an open or Creative Commons license, where all you have to do is make attribution and you're free to use it. So for example, I was looking for something for Dr. Hogerl, the project he was working on, and he was looking for images of a spine, and there's way more than this in here, but I found this one, and you can see this was created by someone named Trevor Dennis. If you scroll down, it tells you how you can use it. It tells you what kind of license it has. It has a Creative Commons license. So all we have to do is make sure we're giving credit to this Trevor Dennis that created it. We can't change it, so that's part of the licenses. We can't adapt it, but we can use it exactly as it looks and for non-commercial use. And then it gives you different versions of the license that you can put underneath the image when you use it. So it's got rich text, it's got HTML if you need to embed it in something, and it's got plain text. But I don't know if you saw the page, there's over 700 million images in this database, so there's a lot of stuff in here. A lot of it, again, is not necessarily geared towards medicine, but there is some medical stuff in here. The last thing I wanted you to be aware of in looking through some of this stuff is I found a pretty good LibGuide built by one of the librarians at the Harvard Law School that talks a little bit about what Creative Commons is. It talks about what public domain is. Once things are in the public domain, you're free to use them however you like. But there's some good descriptions of what those different licenses mean and how they work. But what's really cool about it is if you scroll down to the bottom of this, it's got links to these different repositories of Creative Commons and open public domain images. So Bing has one. There's a British Library has one on Flickr, which is just a photograph database. There's something called Flickr's The Commons, where everything's in Creative Commons. There's a Getty Open Content Program. There's just a ton of stuff here. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but so if you're looking for images that you can use and you can just make attribution, you're not worried. You don't have to worry about violating copyright. This would be a really good thing to bookmark. I might make something similar for our LibGuide. I've got some resources on ours about copyright issues, but it might be useful to have something like this too. So that's all I really wanted to show today. That show that we do have resources available that you can use images from for your PowerPoints, for your lectures. We can export them directly into PowerPoint slides and make attribution automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. Again, it's not a high risk thing to use something from our resource we pay for in one of your lecture PowerPoints. It's just kind of a good habit to be in. So that's all I really have for today, and I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Rob. Sorry I got on late. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you.
Tyler.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do I have, if I sign up or sign in with the Liberty University institution thing, would I still be able to get all this downloads, or do I have to create a personal account?
You don't have to create a personal account for anything except for Clinical Key. So if you're using Access Medicine or LWW or TEMA or any of those, you don't have to sign into those resources. If you want to grab something from Clinical Key, it's going to want you to create a profile. It's free and it'll be associated with your Liberty account, but you have to create an individual account for that to do that.
Okay, wonderful. I have one more. With UpToDate, I find you can get some of this PowerPoint too. How is the resource on UpToDate different from the other ones you showed us?
Well, UpToDate is more of a point of care clinical reference tool. I haven't used that a lot or seen it used a lot in grabbing things for lecture PowerPoints, but I've always assumed it was more of a clinical, in practice kind of tool.
It does have some PowerPoints that you can get like these other ones.
Okay, that's news to me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good day.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Absolutely, Dr. Martin.